Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is 12:14 p.m. here in beautiful sunny Southern California, which means it is technically it is afternoon, even though it's not even 1. But it's not the morning. And there was big news today. Well, this week, Blizzard teased us with some thoughts about changes being made to StarCraft 2. This video will give you all the information you need, as well as the only opinion that matters on the subject. And if you don't like sarcasm, you can either begin writing your angry comment below right now or just close the video. So let's get down to it. Today, this magical tweet came out from StarCraft, and they said, "Come, eyeball emoji, what we're testing for hashtag StarCraft Uno multiplayer's next design major patch. lie.blizz/design SC2." And you click that and you go to, oh my god. Big patch today. The general gist of things. I'm going to breeze through some of this because I know all of it, and there's no reason for us to read through this big sappy text. You can find it on their own page if you really wanted to do that. So, basic gist of things. For the economy of StarCraft 2, they are deciding to make it so that the big mineral patches last a little bit longer. This way, if you're being forced on a contain inside of 1 or 2 bases, you don't bleed out an economy as badly as you would normally, but you still lose the small patches, so you're not comfortably turtling on 3 bases with infinite money. Also, to compensate for this, the geysers are going to get a little bit more gas as well. Not a huge change here, but this is basically meant to give noobs who can't expand quickly, or even a pro that gets contained at gas, just a little bit more to work with. So, basically, each race, they have changed the mule. It mines less minerals, but it can now mine gas. You can only put 1 mule on a geyser. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you could put 2 if you really wanted to, because they have to make trips. But my point is, you are going to be able to mine gas with mules, but they won't mine as many minerals. This will give you an option to focus on that if you really want to. I don't know. This is a crazy change. This will be very interesting in those scenarios where you're playing mech and you don't need the minerals, the extra minerals as much, but you need the gas. I think this is probably one of the most interesting changes for Terran that they've suggested. This also is a nice bio nerf as well, because you're not going to get, I mean, that 5 minerals when you're dropping, you know, hundreds of mules potentially in a game, that can add up. So, units that are going to be redesigned. The Raven is no more. That's so Raven is done. It is now Raven Mark II. This is the Iron Man 3 of the Raven. Basically, this missile, Scrambler, it's locked down, except the mechanical target can still move. That's it. It's locked down without the movement shut down. So, yeah. Repair drone. If you've played StarCraft 2 Nova Covert Ops, you already know what this is, except it can't move. So it's basically you drop a point defense drone, but instead of blocking shots, it heals mech units. This is pretty badass. It'll work in team games, friendly mechanical units. So if you want to play 2v2 mass carrier, now your teammates' carriers can't die. It's only 75 energy, so cheaper than a point defense drone. The Shredder missile. It's basically like a Seeker missile, but it only does 30 damage. However, if it hits something, it drops all of the units that it hits armor by 3 for a short period of time. So that's a pretty big deal. This is something that if you were playing mech and someone's trying to push into your tank line, let's say a Roach Hydra army tries to push into your tank line, and, you know, they've got 2-2. It's a tough push. You don't have all your upgrades together yet for whatever reason. A couple of Shredder missiles into that army can drop all those units' armor down to 0 and make them die even faster. Basically, that's like a situation where you would use it. I assume it'll do friendly fire, so it could be dangerous to use on melee units. Other changes: the Widow Mine. When it shoots, it's visible. Widow Mines are no longer invisible while they're recharging their shot. This means, no, you cannot just put random Widow Mines all over the map and get free kills all game. You have to actually pay attention to it once it fires. This is a good change that kind of reduces a bit of the randomness of dealing with this unit. It's the only unit that, it's one of the only units that you can just set and forget and like actually never have to think about again because it's only 2 supply. The Ghost. You will no longer have to research Cloak, but you lose 25 of its starting energy. This is an undoing of a patch back in Heart of the Swarm where the Ghost had Mobius Reactor destroyed. Mobius Reactor is back. This basically allows you to use Ghosts a little bit more versatility. People don't like Research and Cloak. It's expensive, it takes a while, and it's not really that great unless you rush it. So this will give you a little bit more options. Think of it as like your Terran Dark Templar rush, except not as good because it relies on energy. The Liberator. This change is pretty meaningless. For those of you that don't know how the Liberator works, when the Liberator goes into siege mode right now, it gains vision up to its maximum range, which is 14, by the way. That's the vision range of the old Mothership core from StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm. Obviously, that's an insane amount of vision. Now, you will only get that vision in the ring. It used to give you the entire vision of the Liberator. So it's not really that big of a change because the Liberator will still have vision of the Defender Zone, which is where it's going to be firing those shots anyway. The Cyclone. It's going to get its first couple of shots of the lock-on more quickly. That's it. And there's an upgrade that makes the lock-on do a little bit more damage versus armored units. This is to allow Cyclones, the first couple shots being faster is to help push back units like the Oracle. The Cyclone should now be able to win those early 1v1s if you want to build a defensive Oracle. And the Cyclone is going to be able to deal with some of those maybe higher tier tech air units that you'd be worried about later on. Like a Tempest or Carrier. It won't be the unit that saves you because it's still over 14 seconds, but it can become a good support unit now for anti-air with the Thor that already does a lot of damage in the current state of the game. The last thing changed for Terran is Smart Servos. So this is like that campaign upgrade that makes everything transform really fast. But it doesn't work on Siege Tanks or Liberators because that'd be broken. This is a neat change. I don't know that this makes a huge deal. It'll help with Hellbats, Hellion run-bys that turn into Hellbats, because sometimes you'll get your Hellion surrounded by drones or lings, and you'll try to transform it, and it'll die right before it transforms. So an upgrade like this could be great for a mech player that wants to go on the aggressive and harass, or maybe even Viking harass versus Protoss, since it does the bonus bit damage to probes. The big update for Protoss is that the Mothership core is being removed. They're testing this. This is one of the best changes the game could ask for because, at least in my opinion, being able to kill your opponent by building 2 pylons outside of their base and blowing up their entire wall is stupid. Yeah, so, cool new things. Now your army doesn't have to worry about the Mothership core getting sniped. You can recall 10 of your Nexus. Your Nexus has energy again. Chrono Boost actually boosts back to 100% rate. So Chrono Boost is actually really good now. If you have a lot of energy stacked on your Nexi, you can blast Chrono, push upgrades, whatever. So Protoss gets a big buff in terms of the home setup. And also, your Nexus is a shield battery. It heals pretty much like a Medevac. It's 1 energy per 3 shields restored. And I think Medevac is 1 energy per 4. So it'll be just barely slower healing rate than a Medevac. Of course, this can also be used on buildings, they mention. So if you build a photon cannon at home to defend, or you have a couple stalkers, you have an immortal, your Nexus will automatically heal any unit taking fire. This also means that you could technically bait out the Nexus energy by poking probes with an early Reaper, etc., etc. So it'll protect your workers as well. It's also important to mention. And the Mothership core thing as well, important to note that Widow Mines are not going to be able to fire 1,000,000 times, because once they shoot once, you'll be able to kill them. Just things to keep in mind. Okay, other changes. I'll try to get through this quickly. The Stalker does basically double damage versus armored. However, its attack speed is a lot slower. Actually, it's more like 50% damage boost versus armored. It's going to destroy Overlords now. But it attacks a bit slower, and it gets more damage per upgrade. So the Stalker is a bit beefier, but shoots a bit slower. That's the general gist there. The only real change about the Disruptor is it does a little bit less damage. And if the Disruption Ball, if the Purification Nova hits something, if the center of it hits something, it will just detonate immediately. The Colossus is having 1 extra range. The range upgrade only gives 2 range now instead of 3, so it ends up at 9 anyway. But you have a little more range to start with. And it does a lot more damage versus light and less damage versus armored. The Carrier. Interceptor cost is up 5 minerals because obviously this unit has been pretty nightmarish for people that play team games. And it gets used in 1v1. High Templars now have an auto attack that does absolutely nothing. The Mothership can't use Photon Overcharge because the Mothership core is gone. You build it straight from the Nexus like you did in Wings of Liberty. And Mass Recall is no longer the Mothership teleporting to somewhere. It's pulling units to it. You can also park. If you guys have played co-op, you already know about this ability. But you can park your observer in the sky. It has more vision and can't move. It's really nice, actually. You'll never accidentally move your observer again. They have also added this ability for the overseer. If you play co-op, you already know how this works. Okay, Zerg changes. The infester. Basically, the way it works is spread your creep. Fungal growth only hits ground units now, but it's much bigger. However, it only stuns units if they're on creep. And if it hits units off creep, it just slows them. So the units can still kind of move. They can still do stuff. The infested Terran absolutely shreds air units now. I've seen this in action. It's pretty insane. If you throw down infested Terrans onto creep, so if you're using them defensively, say someone wants to send Void Rays to you and you're like, well, I can't fungal the Void Rays. Drop 10 infested Terrans and it's 140 damage per shot. So they'll be 2-shotting Void Rays from 10 infesteds, which is 250 energy. How many fungals does it take to kill a Void Ray? I don't know. Fungal's only like 30 damage or something, right? I don't know. Anyway, infested Terrans are actually really strong right now. It's a cool thing to change. They also get upgrades. You can upgrade them now. So that 14 damage goes up. Lurker. There's an upgrade. It moves faster. It burrows faster. Okay. You can build a Lurker Den without having to build... without having to morph your Hydra Den. Hydra Dens do not morph anymore. Lurker Dens can just be built so that you don't have to wait to get your Lurker Den because you need Hydra upgrades. You don't have to delay your Hydra upgrades if you want a Lurker rush. So Lurkers are just a lot better. The only other change is Parasitic Bomb doesn't stack, but it does 180 damage. So if you hit a Viking with it, it's going to die. Or a Liberator. Or Phoenix. I don't know. Phoenix, yeah. Unless it gets repaired, of course. Although Phoenix can't be repaired, so press F to pair specs. Oh, wait, no, they can run to the shield battery now because your Nexus is a shield battery. How about that? How about that? Obviously, the Overseer can park itself. And the Swarm Host just moves slower off creep. This way, if you do have a bunch of Hellions that catch the Swarm Host, you can actually almost kill them now. Stim Marines should definitely be able to chase them. So that's it. Those are the changes. I just went over them very briefly. I think almost all of these changes are really good. Only change I don't like, I was hoping to see something done about Oracle's Revelation. Not meant to be a balance point thing, just like a personal thing. It's not really a problem unit in the game. I don't like it, but... And Liberator range. I was hoping that the Liberator range upgrade would be removed, because it's just downright silly. You can play all of these changes today by going to StarCraft 2 and clicking the testing tab under multiplayer. I'll take a brief moment to show off the fact that I'm in Grandmaster League in 1v1. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the August 17th StarCraft 2 balance proposal.